Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday tone tip. On today's video, we're on firmware 25.02 for the FM3, which has the same modeling spec as firmware 7 for the FM9 and firmware 8 for the FM3. So if you're on any Fractal device, you can play along with me right now. I want to show you 4 of my favorite bread and butter amp models that just kind of work in so many musical contexts. We're going to start off with the Deluxe Verb normal model. This is a model of the normal channel on a Fender Deluxe Reverb. The vibrato channel is modeled as well, and it sounds fantastic. What I want to do with these 4 amps is just show you the stock settings, the starting point on here, and how I would quickly dial them in. So let's have a listen to my PRS DGT. I have the coil split, and I am on the middle pickup over here. I'm just going to use my free LTTV Mix 7 cab IR. I'll show you some matching cabs at the end of the video because I think that's a great way to get some more authentic tones here and a little bit of the London plate reverb over here. So at stock settings, this is a little bit kind of woofy and muddy. Let's just have a listen to where we go. That was pretty straightforward to dial in. With this guitar, like I said, it was a bit muddy and woofy, so I would turn the bass all the way down and then just increase it to the point where it starts to fill up. This is going to be dependent on the rest of your rig, the guitar that you're playing, the cab IR that you've chosen, your monitoring system, the environment that you're listening in. But for me at the moment, I really like that. You could hear when I went to the bridge humbucker, I had some breakup and some crunch happening on there, as well as some sustain. When I went to the split coil modes on there, I could get it really, really clean when I played softly. So that one's great. You can run drive pedals into it. You can crank up the gain if you want more drive. You could turn the gain down if you wanted something really sparkly. But in the real world, it is a classic backlight amp, and you can use it like that in the Fractal. Let's go to channel B now. This is going to be the second amp. This is a Class A 30-watt Brilliant, a new amp model that was added in firmware 25 on the FX3, and the equivalent firmwares for the FM9 and FM3. Again, I'm going to start out on that middle single coil position. I want a really nice chimey sound here. So the classic Vox thing to do is you can crank up the bass and the treble, and it will kind of create a mid-cut style thing on there. Adjust the gain to taste, but we're going to start with a high cut all the way up and then back it off to the point where I just have enough chime. So stock settings, crank the high cut, and then I'm going to dial that back. So we get this. So this is kind of like one step above what we were doing with the deluxe verb on there. We've got this beautiful chime happening on the single coil modes of this guitar. And when I go to the humbucker mode, it's got this awesome thick distorted grind about it. And again, a classic combination would be to run a drive, something like a treble booster into it, and it would do the Rory Gallagher or the Brian May thing. You could run delays in front of it if you wanted to do the U2 thing on there. This is such a great all-around low to mid-gain amp model on there. We're going to move on to some more crunch here, and this will come as no surprise to anyone. The Brit 800 2203 high, I think if you were to remove all but one amp models in the Axe FX3, you'd have to leave this one, the 2203, a Marshall JCM 800. For most rock music, it's kind of the only amp that you need. The one thing that I do like to do is turn the master volume down from the stock setting, but I think it sounds pretty good at the stock setting. So you will hear me turn the master down and bring the level up to compensate, but we get... Chuck a boost in front of it. You set the bass, middle, and treble to about 1 o'clock on there. Dial in the presence to taste so it's bright enough or dark enough, whatever you're going for. You've got an absolutely killer all-around rock amp. Like I said earlier, if you're going to be playing any type of rock music, your first port of call should always be the JCM 800, in my opinion, on there. So 2203 high sounds phenomenal. The low input is modeled in here, as well as a 50 watt 2204. But this model in particular, you could hear its stock settings. I could roll with that. I've had way, way worse guitar tones in my life than that, and it's so easy to dial in. Let's just go a few extra steps in the high gain territory, and I was just going to list 4 amps on here. I could easily list 5 or 15 or something like that. This is kind of a toss of a coin, depending on the mood that I'm in. It would either be one of the Boogie Mark IV models, but today it is the 5153 100 watt Stealth Red. The trick here is to crank up the presence control because it's a little bit dark at the stock settings on there. So what I'm going to do is, just start out with the stock settings. I'll bring the presence up. Once it gets to about 9, you really start to hear the amp come alive, and then I'll just dial it from there. I do love that CC boost in there. You can experiment with different boost types, so you could put a drive pedal in front of it if you wanted to get it incredibly tight and modern sounding. chuck a fuzz or an octave distortion in front of it if you want something that's a bit doomier sounding on there. It's an incredible amp model, and it feels so good to play. This is one amp model that I didn't expect to like as much as I do, and I've been using it in some of my live presets recently and just loving how it cuts through a big 3-piece rock mix. Anyway, there's 4 pretty amazing sounding amps that are relatively easy to dial in. No advanced parameters, well, unless you count the boost that I did in there for the last 2 amps in there. The last thing we should look at are some factory cabs that complement these. For the Let's go back to the Deluxe Verb Normal. There is a matching Dynacab in here. So let's do this. Let's go to the Dynacab selection. I'm going to go to the 1x12 Deluxe Verb over there. And I just really like this with the ribbon mic backed off a little bit over here. So let's have a listen to what that sounds like. Then I'll choose matching Dynacabs for the Class A 30 watt, the 2203, that's great with a greenback cab, and then the 5153 I think works really well with one of the boogie cabs. That's it for today's video. I would love to know what your 4 favorite amp models are in the Axe FX3, FM9 and FM3. Until next week, take it easy, and I will see you for another Tuesday Tone Tip then. Cheers.